off to the races. I've actually gotten a pretty good head start on this project before I picked the camera up and started recording. Sometimes I just get set up and I just get into my groove and it's just go, 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 and I, don't know when to stop. But this is a new head unit that I just picked up. This is the Alpine iLX-507. It's replacing my old Pioneer AppRadio 4, which is, it's a great head unit, but this is older technology. I bought this 10 or 12 years ago. And this old Alpine amp is even older. I've had this since, I think this I bought with the head unit that I had even before this, which was a single DIN unit. And so this is the Alpine KTA-450, and the A obviously stands for Alpine. So this is the non-universal version of the amplifier. So I had to do a little bit of custom wiring to get this to work with my AppRadio. So this system is much more specific and advanced, as you can see from all this behind here. I've actually gone ahead and believe it or not, I've cut out a lot of stuff that I don't need from this harness. This has wireless CarPlay for Apple and Android. Wireless CarPlay is a game changer. This one has CarPlay, but you got to plug the adapter in and everything. Just the simple idea of getting into your vehicle and going. The GPS, the mapping works as it should without you even having to pull your phone out of your pocket. I have no idea why more head units don't run this wireless CarPlay. It's just unbelievably convenient, and but that's enough about that. So what I've done so far is, I was saying I cleared out a lot of stuff that I don't need. This head unit is designed to speak to your newer vehicles, to the systems in your newer vehicles, which, this is a 2003 Jeep, which thankfully I have none of that. So I went ahead and cleared out all that stuff that I don't need and simplified, and even still I have all this stuff. So this is actually something that I don't need as well, but Alpine has this really interesting sort of high-end camera system that I might add in the future. So I left those wires here. That's the front camera and this drive recorder in. I think that has something to do with the new camera system. So I left those for the time being. If I decide not to get that camera system, then I'll probably snip that off. So as it stands, we have antenna, drive recorder in, which I'm not using. Sirius connection. I don't use Sirius. I have a rear mounted camera for like a backup camera. So I'm using the wiring for this, and I have this adapter that came with the kit, so you can run your own camera. I have an HD camera on the back of the Jeep, so that plugs into here. I'm running audio through RCA jacks only. So this is the front speakers, this is the rear speakers. They plug into the amp. I want to clip these and make these shorter. The idea is I want to make this into a solid unit. Plug and play, basically. I'll have as few various attachments to the Jeep as possible. So I've redesigned the wiring harness as such. But so you have your speaker connections, which will be something like this. And then I wired my head unit and the amp together along the same circuit with the ground, and they will run the ground runs to the chassis behind the dash, and then the power comes from my Switch Pros unit. And that allows me to, when say I wake up in the morning and I want to listen to some music, I'm sleeping up in the tent, I can pull my phone out and connect to my Switch Pros unit via Bluetooth, and I can power up my head unit, and I got music without even having to leave the tent. Now, creature comforts when you're camping make camping a lot more fun and easy, especially when you have your wife and your daughter with you. So so that's the audio, that's the camera, you have your antenna, and it's got two USB ports. One is for uploading information to the head unit, like updates and things like that. And the other is for connecting. It's like another way to connect to the head unit if you want to play music. So this, I think, is about as simple as I can make the wiring at this point. What I'm going to do is wrap it and just make it nice and clean before I start working on the brackets. I'm going to have to build a custom bracket because the Alpine head unit that this amp was specifically designed for, as far as I know, is it's half the depth. So that head unit only comes back about this far, and then this is designed to bolt to the back of it. But this one, being that it has more options, it's more advanced than that head unit. It's full depth, but it has this, you know, handy recess. So what I'm going to do is build some custom brackets that will mount. Basically, these are the brackets that I use for that head unit. What I'm going to do is make some brackets based on these. I'm going to use these as a template, and then what I'm going to need to do is cut out a section like this, or actually I'll probably make them full height and then bend them at 90 degrees, so I'll be able to bolt the amp down in there, and I'll have it spaced about 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 to an inch up off of the head unit, because the head unit needs to breathe. This is where the cooling, you know, where the heat gets out. All right, so I got the brackets trimmed. I was able to use the brackets from my old Pioneer, just do a little trimming. And I built sort of a standoff system. It's ghetto, but I think it'll do for now until I come up with something a little bit more professional and legit. So that lets the amp stand up off of the head unit about 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more than 3/4, and it lets these holes breathe. So I have access to the gain switches and all that stuff, and on this side the wiring comes out just fine. I thought I was going to be able to make use of the brackets that came with the amp, but I wasn't able to really figure anything out with any of these. This is the bracket that normally mounts to the back of the more shallow. I think it's the 407 maybe, or I don't remember what model number Alpine it is, but that model only comes to about here. It's real shallow, and then this bracket is supposed to bolt onto the back of it. So obviously I can't use that with this one. All right, we're ready to go in.
1 week later.
Anything but a whammy! And stop! No!
My amplifier, for whatever reason, I think I've narrowed it down to the reason, but it's not getting power sporadically. Just sort of, it's not something you can predict. But I know that if the Jeep sits for a while and I get in, I turn the Jeep on and go to listen to some music, all I can hear is the bass from my subwoofers in the back of the Jeep, which are not powered by this amplifier. A few times when this has happened, I've pulled the stereo, and I've noticed that when I sort of screw around with this adapter clip, which I got on eBay years and years ago, my speakers get sound all of a sudden. So what I did was order a new one. Here's the part number for that. I'm gonna cut this one all out and clean it up once again. This was actually, unfortunately, this was a fairly clean job that I did here. Another issue that I'm having is that my e-brake defeat, which is this little diode here, is not working the way it should be. If you're running an Alpine, you know about these systems that they have, that they stop you from watching video and changing a lot of the settings and stuff unless you have your emergency brake engaged. This isn't working every time. It's working maybe 4 or 5 out of 10 times. What I have to do is shut the head unit off and turn it back on again, and then it'll blink a couple times, and then I'll have full functionality. I think it might have something to do with the way that I wired my harness here. So I got tricky with a couple things. So I'm gonna go back and try and figure out what I did wrong there. So task 1, fix the amplifier situation where it's not getting power. 2 is fix the e-brake defeat diode here, get that working properly. 3 is installing my new 100-watt Polk component set in the dashboard. I got an interesting turn of events. I got a little visitor in my garage. I kept hearing things rustle around in the corner, and I couldn't figure out what it was until I moved these tables, and sure enough, this guy's back here having his final moments on Earth, I think. He's not doing so good.
What you up to, bud? You good? He's still breathing. That's gonna put a hold on the video.
I think it's time for me to step away from this and go get lunch and let this dude die in peace.
8 hours later.
This is the wiring diagram that I put together when I did this. This is my head unit here. This is my piggyback amplifier here. And I have my e-brake defeat or e-brake bypass here. And then the adapter, actually, this is the adapter harness clip, which is what I'm planning on replacing. That's this one here. And then this is the factory harness clip, which is in the dash of the Jeep that, sticks out. So I've been giving a little thought to my first issue, my most important issue, which is lack of power to my dash speakers and my pod speakers. I don't think it's a problem with power getting to the amplifier. When I have this problem where the audio cuts out, my head unit is still on. So I know that if my head unit's on, this wire here is getting power. And if this wire is getting power, then obviously the amp's getting power. That's the yellow wire here. If I was just not getting power, then I wouldn't have my head unit screen wouldn't be on. What I think is that this clip has a faulty connection, and that is breaking the connection to my speakers. So what I'm gonna do first is cut all my zip ties off of this harness and separate everything. And I want to cut this harness adapter out and splice the new one in. And then ideally, put everything back together and give it a few days and see if the problem comes back again.
Round 2. Fight!
All right, so it happened again, and I was lucky enough to catch it this time on camera. So right now, the head unit is on. It's warm to the touch. The amp cooled to the touch. And you can hear my preamp subs underneath the rear bench. Those are powered by the head unit. So I know that those are getting power. Now, the way that this works is the head unit sends signal out to the amplifier through these RCA jacks. And then the amplifier processes the signal and sends it back out through speaker wire, and that speaker wire runs through this harness here into this clip right here. These 2 white wires, these are speaker wires. If I put this in here, I got no power. I know that the amplifier is getting power because this red wire used to be the wire for the head unit, which I clipped off of here, and I ran the head unit back to the clip instead. So this power wire here is actually connected to this yellow wire. This yellow wire is the power wire for the amplifier. I know this is getting a little wordy, but this red wire is getting power. So I know that this yellow wire is getting power, and this yellow wire is the wire that powers the amplifier. So for whatever reason, the amplifier is not accepting the fact that it has power, or maybe there's a problem with my my remote wire that tells the amplifier to turn on, or yeah, I don't have an or. I think that's pretty much it. I know at this point that the amplifier is getting power. I know it's getting ground. I know it's getting remote. I don't know if it's getting signal. I know that it's not putting out signal. So I've come up with sort of a diagnostic solution here. What I'm gonna do is bypass the amplifier with the regular head unit wiring for one speaker. I'm going to wire in this old kicker speaker that I pulled out, and then I'm going to put everything back in the Jeep as it was. And when the issue comes up again, I'll bypass the amplifier by hooking up this speaker. And if I get audio, I know that the head unit is putting out signal, and that means that the amplifier is getting signal, but it's not giving signal out to the audio in the Jeep. As luck would have it, it just so happens that my amplifier right now is not working. You can tell that because you don't hear the beeping sound when I push the buttons. And here, let's see. Okay, so that's my subs banging away underneath my rear bench. As you can hear, I have no audio to my dash or my pod speakers right now, only to my subs, which are powered directly from the head unit. Here's my test lead, which is also powered directly from the head unit. I'll hook this up to my test speaker here. There we go. We got audio. So I know that the head unit is at least good. The signal from the head unit is at least good. Now I can move further down the line to possibly the RCA jacks between the head unit and the amplifier. Maybe I have a bad connection there. If I have a signal there, then I probably need to start hunting down the warranty paperwork for this amplifier. Well, as you can probably hear right now, I got static coming from my dash speakers and from the pod speakers up top. And I would say that static is probably a pretty good metaphor for what's going on in my brain right now. Because these videos are in no way ego-driven or in any way an attempt to show that I am perfect at everything. I'm going to show you something special that I just found. After 3 wiring jobs, a new adapter clip, hours of bench testing, and building test systems to figure out what this glitch is, I just found it by shoving the head unit into the dash. You see this wire here with this clip? That's my power wire to the amplifier. I tested for power to the amplifier via this wire here, which used to be the wire that powered my head unit also. I separated them as part of the process of chasing gremlins through my electrical system here. So about a minute ago, I was shoving the stereo back in here again, and I noticed something. Hear that crackle? Hear that? That's the power to the amplifier. Apparently, it's good enough to light my test light, but I got a bad connection here. I use these clips all over the Jeep, and I've never had a problem with them. I use them to get power up into my rooftop tent. I use them to connect my charger to my battery bank back here, and I've never had a problem with them. But apparently this one here is the problem with my amplifier. All right, so we're all back in again, minus the faulty clip, obviously. So as it stands now, the power for the head unit is rerouted from the factory harness back to my Switch Pros, so I can turn it on remotely again. And the amplifier power is running directly to the battery. So the idea is I turn the head unit on and it sends a signal to the amplifier and tells it to turn on. But there is a concern that I have. I've noticed since I've fixed the wiring for the amplifier, it seems to be generating a bit more heat. I guess it wasn't getting full power before. So I'm worried that it's getting too hot to be sitting over top of the head unit. Worst case scenario, I have to relocate it and tuck it up underneath here, or maybe underneath the steering column over on the driver's side. So here it is. This is the final stage of my current audio project. These are select increments dash pod, hard plastic dash pods for the 5 1/4 I have in my dash. The kit comes with a pretty decent instruction sheet and a hardware kit. I guess these are these are the O-rings that go in the back of the pods here, and I guess this is the hardware. So this is the old version. I just got these foam boom mats plugged into the these are the nail-in adapter brackets that let you go from the oval, I forget what size they are, but they let you go to the round 5 1/4 like this. If you want to go to 5 1/4 and you don't want to spend the money for the select increments, these are probably the way you want to go. So these, hopefully, yeah, nice fit. I actually probably could have gone with bigger magnets on these speakers. I got magnets that were somewhat equal to my old speakers because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to fit them into the pods, but these pods are actually considerably deeper than the boom mat. Yeah, so there's room for bigger magnets than I have on these Polks. But the Polks sound good, so I don't have any plans on changing them. So this is, yeah, left driver's side. I just came across an unforeseen complication with how deep this pod is compared to the old one. I have a poison spider roll cage that has the stanchions that run down along the door jamb, which makes it a little bit tight even with the factory, well, the 5 1/4 that I had in there with the nail-in adapter plate. But these are impossible to get in unless you do a little trimming. What I had to do, I noticed up top here that there's a little indentation that looks like it's from the factory. I'm assuming that was to make way for the factory style speaker. And I'm actually assuming that that's factory, that notch is factory. I don't know for sure, but basically what I just did was copy another one down at the bottom, because this is where I was having trouble getting the new pod in, because the speaker stands out so far that the bottom rim of the speaker was hitting here and not letting it turn past this little edge here, this 90-degree cutback. That the bottom of the mounting point was hitting that. So with this little dimple that I trimmed out here, it's still tight, but it fits in. Maybe not with one hand, but yeah, there we go. It fits in. So if you got a poison spider cage, or maybe a Genrite or something else that runs a stanchion down the door jamb here, you're gonna have to get a little bit creative. Not a big deal. So I got the speaker pods and the speakers in both sides. Check out that clearance on the top rim there. That's really close. It doesn't get any closer than that, but they fit. I mounted on the driver's side. I mounted the crossover on top of the AC ducting back here. There's a plastic ducting piece that goes across. On the passenger side, I mounted the crossover up on the bottom face of the airbag box over top of the glove compartment here. The speaker on this side needed a notch as well. I tested out a few different locations for the tweeters, and up near the windshield seems to be the best spot. So it's been about a week, and I'm happy to report that I have no more issues. Turns out that power wire was the source of both problems I was having, cutting out basically power to my amplifier, which controls my dash speakers and my pod speakers. And that wire was also the source of the problem with my emergency brake bypass. As far as the head unit itself, I'm really happy with it. It took me a while to get things working properly, but that was no fault of Alpine or the head unit or the amplifier. That was purely installer error. Ironically, all the stuff that I went through, and it just turned out to be that one wire, but but it really is a great head unit. Money well spent. I'm really glad that I got it. There is one thing I noticed, and that is the voltmeter on here. This voltmeter is always a little bit low. As you can see, it says I'm running 11.7 volts right now, but it always seems to be low. Right now I'm running 12.1 on my voltmeter down here. And I don't know if they do that on purpose just to leave you with a reserve of voltage. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. But other than that, no issues at all with the head unit. I really like the way that it works. I like the interface. It's got, you know, GPS. It's got an antenna that I have my antenna mounted up here on the in the windshield. One thing to remember, when you first hook it up, you need to have the GPS antenna hooked up to the head unit. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to set the clock. It drove me crazy trying to figure out how to set this damn clock. If you don't have your GPS antenna hooked up, the clock isn't gonna set for you. But as far as sound quality, it sounds amazing. Obviously I can't put music on because I'm gonna get copyright stricken, but the combination of the 507 with the 450 and my new Polks up in the select increments pods here, and my 6.5 rainbows up here, these are both component sets. It sounds amazing. I'm still a little bit underpowered as far as amplification. I think what I'm going to end up doing in the long run is getting a second amplifier and hiding it somewhere back behind the dash. And the first amplifier will power just my dash speakers, and the second one is gonna power the speakers up in the pods. So that's about it for the audio update, for now at least. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel, and check out some of my other stuff. Take it easy.